Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Tonight, alongside me from the great Midwest is that wonderful Midwestern sensibility man I know of, RDV. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am doing great. Feeling a little bit under the weather, just a little bit because this movie's making me kind of misty. Yeah, it's
Stop it. Stop it. At least be good if it's going to be bad. Yeah, tonight's movie, 1971 play Misty for me, Clint Eastwood in his directorial debut. Gotta say this is a great film, and as people start piling here in the chat, I gotta sit there and say, growing up as a kid in the 80s, a teenager, the big thing was Fatal Attraction. People went crazy about it, and we've talked about Michael Douglas a lot here as far as getting ready to do some of his films. We have a up in the community tab here on the Xtreme Movie Show, list of a few second-rate, let's say, movies of Michael Douglas to go after, and I purposely did not include that one because when I think of Stalker and Crazy Woman type movies, it all comes down to Play Misty for me. Misty, of course, being the jazz standard song that was made famous by Johnny Mathis, one of the greatest singers of all time, period. Non-debatable in my mind. But for this movie, I had forgotten, because I hadn't seen this thing in probably 20 years, how friggin' good it was. And I was reading her biography. I didn't realize that the lady in here that plays the psycho, Jessica Walter, the actress,
yeah.
I had no idea that she was the voiceover for Archer, which is a phenomenal show. And I also didn't realize how it's true. I'm going, oh, that's why I know who Mallory Archer's voice reminds me of, because it's her. I knew I'd do it before. And I know she's done a lot of stuff there too, but she also did Arrested Development. I'm like, oh my God. I just, it hit me like a ton of bricks too. Because I have to say, she is the best thing about this film, start to finish, with the way she acts, the situations we get put in. This is a legitimately terrifying movie. I think it's a great film, and if it's on the short list of ones for Clint Eastwood, if there is. What's your initial take?
It is a scary situation, no matter if you're a guy or a girl. Someone's stalking you, and the way she just shows up, at first he's kind of, okay, fine, I'll go, and then and then it starts getting serious. Like she's in there, like, oh my gosh, the whole entire movie. I just think I'm like, see, this is why you carry a gun with you, because I'm thinking and then I love how they even had after his housekeeper gets attacked, by Jessica Walter's character, Evelyn, the detective, what's his name again?
The detective,
John Larch, Larch character, and he's like your old timey, your old close to retirement, detective. He comes in there and he starts questions like, do you know this person? Because remember she tried she could slit her wrist, and he had to call a doctor friend because it would be bad publicity. If someone slit her wrist and kill herself inside his apartments, he's trying to get a good gig, So it looked bad. It tarnished his career, and Evelyn knew that. She's crazy enough to know that she think if I'll die, I'll at least fuck up his career. And then when he gets her, rescues her, she gets even more obsessive because because he likes other girls. He likes Donna Mills' character.
He lays a lot of pipe, and it's set up that way. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting. Recently on Sundays, we've been going through the Dirty Harry films. We're getting ready to do the fourth one, Sudden Impact, I think from 1983 with Sandra Locke, I believe, this coming Sunday. Check those out, and check us out on Sunday with that. But one of the themes we've had with the Dirty Harry films has been this. He's not been amoral. He's got a moral code. He explains what it is, and that's something that gets lost on the politicization of those films. And here, his character is kind of the same way. There's nothing, I think, amoral about what he does. He's a successful guy. He's a single guy. He's productive. Doesn't have a girlfriend, so he uses his stature as a way to pull women. If they, I'm trying to watch what I say here. To have relations. He's a swinging singler's bachelor's pad, and frankly, in a small town like that, he's a top dog. However, he doesn't act like one through this film, and so no matter how she's crazy, He deserves everything he gets, in my opinion. I don't hate him. I don't think his character is bad, but it's interesting to see that this is one of those universal things. The only thing that's different from 50 years ago when this came out was, of course, no cell phones. The rate at how quickly you might have a job interview and those kinds of things was just a little bit slower. Like when he's having dinner with the lady from San Francisco. It's it's a tremendous film all the way, mostly due to her.
I disagree as far as him being deserving what he gets. You know, it's they had a
Really?
one night stand. It was agreed to it by the girl, and then she obviously wanted more because she's freaking crazy. A normal person would have just been done with. You know, we find out that he is a little bit of a player, though. He cheated on his girlfriend, girl that he was like, Donna Mills.
Did he?
Well, we don't know.
Or did she just want to take it to another level and he wasn't ready for it? And she moved away anyway.
We really don't know, but it's played off that said like his eyes were wandering when he was with her, and he's like, "Can you blame me? You had all his roommates, you know. There's one sitting in a bathrobe right next to us while we're on the couch. It's the whole time, you know. It's just like, so yeah. See, it was kind of
eyes were wandering because I didn't like the girlfriend.
Oh.
Let's back up though.
Well,
since we disagree, let's explore that a little bit. Okay, so
I can relate to why you might not like her, because he said she does seem like, well, she left town. She came back, didn't even tell him. Told her gay friend or coworker that she was staying with that he's not even there at all. She was avoiding him, and then she's talking about leaving again. But then she because. She didn't know, she was wishy-washy. So I can understand why I wouldn't stay with her either. I wouldn't be obsessed with her. But Clint, this was the thing. That was part of the plot. Clint really liked this woman, you know, and he wanted to be with Donna Mills. But then the problem is he's got this Evelyn character who does not want to leave him alone. The fact that she stole his keys out of the car, and then she's like, "Oh,
that's nothing."
And then like, you know. And then no, the best part is like, you know, they're outside the bar, and they're like, he's like, "Ma'am, is he buying?" She's like, "Go away, you bastards!" I was like, "Oh my god!" I was just like, she just screams top of her lungs at them, and like, guys, like, "Okay, you can handle it."
He's too nice. And so let's back up.
Yeah.
So like I said, he's a good-looking guy. He's got a decent position that, you know, allows him a nice lifestyle where he can go out and chase. So early on, when we see him at the bar with his buddy and they're playing that game, and it's late at night after shift, probably like 1 a.m, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we see her in the back as soon as he walks in, and he uses that as his way to attract her attention. So I thought, oh, this guy's he's not a player because he's not playing with a woman's emotions, in this case, Evelyn. It's just he's confident. He constructs a scenario that allows her to come to him.
Yeah.
Which, as a guy, that's really the best way to kind of handle it. If a woman's interested in you, you get your best chance with her rather than if you're chasing all the time. And he does chase here a little bit later, but we'll get to that. So I thought, this guy's smooth. He's good. I like him. He's a DJ guy. I've known several people in my lifetime personally that worked, and I've heard many stories like this at all too, so it's obviously not uncommon. And people have groupies in all sorts of different fields, no matter what they work in, whether it's the regular office job or other things too. But there is something sexy about the late night radio voice that comes on WROB, you know, and all those things too. And it's Clint Eastwood, for God's sake, so it's understandable. So they have their little flirting thing. They go back, they make sweet love and all that, so it's fine. And no harm, no foul. They discussed it. They weren't completely inebriated or under the influence of anything, or drugs or whatever. So
yeah,
it seems reasonable. And of course, I'm reminded of a great line from another film we'll eventually get to, where the lady says, you know, well, my body made promises that my brain can't keep, or something like that. Meaning that, yeah, I know I just want to sleep with you, but now I'm getting attached. So to your point, he realizes, okay, you know, my girl's back in town, and he starts to realize, you know, I'm not young anymore. I do really love this woman. And again, I just don't like the way I felt like she was really playing him. And I get that they gave it several months, and during the course of the film, there's a time jump. So I don't hate that, but what was great is that all of a sudden I go, well, this lady, she's so raw and unfiltered in her desire to be with him. It doesn't come across as, and I hate to say it too much, where people go, oh, this is insane. Because some women, when they get attached like that, once you find out, even if you've already dipped your stick, it's like, you've got to cut him off and go cold turkey. And he does not do that. He allows himself to take her home, to be the nice guy, to quote unquote do the right thing, to be honorable, to whatever it is you want to say. And you know, even if it's just a question of being a decent human being, there's a question of her being such a jerk that you just got to be like, I'll call you a cab. See ya.
Well,
because as soon as all this happens, I thought, you know what? If you've never had crazy or been involved with it, when you see him go down all these different situations that she's in, and together, and each one they kind of escalate, you're like, okay, this is not going to end good. And I just, again, her performance is so perfect because it's not the over the top 1980s type of style that a lot of people think of with Fatal Attraction. This is on point. So yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he just gets caught up in it and doesn't know how to handle it. And he's trying to do the right thing, but he makes mistakes, and that's what makes it so cringeworthy. It's almost every 10 or 15 minutes you're like, "Oh, are you sure about that?" You know,
it makes it believable because this is the guy who's never been in that kind of situation before. You know, and most of us probably haven't. For those who have, God rest your soul, man. Because I know I've had a girl that wanted to get with me, you know, but I wouldn't know nothing to do with her, and like we went on a. It was the funny thing is we met one time, and then she wouldn't leave me alone. She wasn't crazy like this, though, you know, but it was enough to where I had to, you know, block her on my phone because she kept calling. After I said I wanted nothing to do with her. Yeah, so I know I can see how it is, how dangerous it can be if you allow continue this like he did. He went and slept with her that second time.
Yep.
Well, that was really dumb on his part.
Completely. And she's not, how do you say this? She's attractive. She has a nice body. She's a little crazy, but she seems like an adult woman. Huh?
She's super jealous too. That's the one thing. She, like, you know, he said, like, she's destroyed his house, his apartment, all that stuff, you know. That's the last straw for me. I've been like to the detective, like, yeah, you have permission to shoot her. it's like, because I mean, I love the little line from his housemaid, and she's like, "You're paying me double for this."
Well, even she likes him because she makes the comment of, like, you know, well, if you ever came over on this side of the tracks, it might open up your eyes to stuff. And I'm like, okay, I could see that.
It was funny though, because I didn't think that I thought she was dead. I thought Evelyn killed her, but apparently she's still alive. So it would have been much more believable if, like, you know, say because I thought about it. What if he went to the police and this one's stalking her? She could have played it off saying that he was stalking her. She could have turned it all around on him.
And he didn't bother doing what he needed to do to get what he wanted, and so I fault him for that.
Yeah.
And it's like I say, the performance is incredible. This is Clint's debut as a director. I understand he had a love affair with the Monterey Peninsula. Of course, he was mayor of, was it Carmel? I had a friend of mine that had to go out there for some business for a couple of days, and he came back raving about how wonderful it is. And I've traveled with this buddy of mine over to Europe, all over the place for a few months, and he's traveled all the way around the world for his business, been everywhere, and he said he's never seen a place more beautiful and quaint than Carmel. And it looks that way, and I like how Clint was able to put a lot of things there that, like we've said about all his Dirty Harry films, you make the city a part of it. In the Dirty Harry films, of course, it's San Francisco. Here it's just a little bit south in Monterey, just south of Montecito and all that, or not Montecito, but well, whatever the place is, it's a little north of it. And it's so beautiful, and it does feel like it, you know, you go, wow, I can see where they just want to get together, and there's no big city dreams about, you know, all the things that might grab you, like, well, I want to make 6 figures and have a high-rise office or any of that other kind of crap. It's no, we just kind of, we're at this point in our relationship where we want to be together. And she comes around because she wasn't sure. And as much as I'm banging on his ex-girlfriend, now girlfriend, or whatever like that, I understand where she keeps him at an arm's distance but warms up. And I do appreciate how his character ends up being honest with her about what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, to have that kind of open discussion between people,
well,
you don't really even have it that much these days. You know,
people
just ghost you.
He got in that situation. He's probably afraid to lose her because, like, this woman won't leave him alone. And he said, like, you know, he only wants her, and this woman pops up. It's totally going to ruin his chances. You know, luckily he turned out this lady's crazy. He was able to convince girlfriend that is crazy. So yeah, this is a scary situation for anybody, whether it's real life or even the fantasy like this. This is creepy. We've all seen the movie Psycho, with Norman Bates and stuff and all, but this is like a little bit more creepy because the way Evelyn acts in this, totally obsessive. This is before smartphones and all that stuff, so it's like how do you unless he had a recording device to record her, he could have done that.
I've known people been in some situations that if I even said what they were, nobody'd believe them, and it's incredible, how crazy things happen like this.
I don't know if it was like it was back then, if it is, it is now, but now it's the guy is automatically guilty, no matter what. There's the cop's question. Remember the cop's question? Why is her wrist slit and all that stuff and all? What's all that about? He's like, I have nothing. Yeah, he lied about it. He said, I don't deal with that.
Yeah, and the thing too is we've talked about before with bad guys, the people who play the bad role. If you can understand where they come from, that might make it a bit more terrifying. Sometimes knowing nothing or it just comes out of the blue is terrifying. In this case, we don't know why she is the way she is. In today's society, there'll be 50 million excuses. It'll be everything except that person. The thing that makes her interesting and terrifying to me is I think we've all either experienced it or know somebody that's gone through some sort of obsessive or stalking kind of behavior. Maybe not to this degree, I'll say, but the point is people, as long as you're with them or around them long enough, they will display red flags, and it's your job to kind of figure out what those things are. But sometimes the heart overrides the head, especially when it's late at night and you just want to romp in the hay. And it's understandable, and as as a man, we've all been there, and as a woman, maybe a woman has been there too, but it's just not a good situation and for him to be in. And like I say, he finds himself trying to do the right thing, and every time he does it, like he talks to her, he tries to lower his voice, he tries to drive her home, he tries to whatever. But when she comes over like the next day and she's got like the steak and she's balled all the stuff, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? He should have laid the law down even harder, I think. And he didn't, because he's like, well, okay. And so I can't blame her for testing boundaries, because when you're initially in a relationship of any kind, those things happen, and your job is to set boundaries. And when you don't do that, you allow the other person to literally get away with murder. And when I thought about this film before rewatching it, because it'd been such a long time, I thought of her as being kind of childlike. But after rewatching it, I go, it's not like he's dealing with a young kid here, because she's probably 25, 30 or whatever. And it's just amazing because we know she's going to come back. We know it's not going to end well for her. Okay. But I still think that for some reason, even though he's got his girlfriend that he's rekindling his relationship, and there's a really beautiful scene here towards the end where they're playing the first time I ever saw your face, as cheesy as it sounds.
Yeah.
They're walking around, and he's making sweet love to her, and the waterfall and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
You go, okay, they didn't rush them getting back together, and they got together. I'm like, okay, I can buy that. But then the question is how do they handle this? And they keep her off screen. But I just thought, my God, I don't know what she's going to do next. And that's the beauty of this film, is we know there's stalking behavior. I think Cable Guy, even though it's a 90s comedy film, is very dark and very strange and weird. A lot of people expected Jim Carrey to pull out another Ace Ventura. That's a great one, but it's played for goofs. This one is not. And I think it's so hard to sometimes not overdo it, and she does it. She just nails it right. And that's why I say I got to give her a lot of credit. The star of this movie.
She got a nomination for Best Supporting Actress for the Golden Globes. I forgot what year it was. Probably for 72.
Yeah.
71.
Yeah. It's well deserved. I don't know who won, but
she's nominated. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't think I've ever seen her in a movie before this. Now I think going back, because I didn't really watch Arrested Development, but she was the mother, wasn't she? The one that was
one.
The one that was always drinking. She's all yeah.
And we have some people mention some of the Psycho films in here, like Fatal Attraction, 1 Hour Photo. Yeah, that's a stalker one. there's something about stalkers and obsessive things that, because it's part of human nature, that no matter whether it's a man or woman doing it, like I said, I'm not saying it's acceptable. However, we can
Mhm.
understand that. And I joked about before with you for a long time, well, we got to do Body Heat, Brian De Palma. It's a fantastic film, and it's over the top, and it's gonzo, and it's one of our more popular videos this year, well over 1,000 views, especially for a small channel. I'm going, wow, it really took off. And it's voyeuristic. I wouldn't call that maybe stalker. Maybe actually it is. So who am I kidding? But it's not like this where it's really like on a primal level. And to me, when you have that, sometimes you go, well, that was a good scene or whatever. But this movie starts where once she starts yelling at people, and he gets that look on his face like, what the hell you doing? And that's Clint Eastwood delivering that too. That's not me. That's not you. That's not Joe Schmo out there. That's the man, right? And he doesn't nip it in the bud when she comes over. It's like, bro, I'm shaking my head going, why would you allow this? Why? It can't be that good. You're a player. Someone else is, you got, plan B or C getting ready to come over if you need to. And like I say, I think he deserved what he got.
Yeah.
I just do.
Yeah, this movie probably inspired a lot of them. We got Single White Female that came out, back in 1992. I mean, and it isn't unheard of too. I'm sure there was stalking cases that were, but nothing. I guess Miranda brought up one.
Yep.
I guess that
it was a popular one at the time.
But, yeah, murder case. So, yeah, I gotta say though, I was noticing when he gets when she first comes over, like he's like, what the hell? Who's knocking at his door? He gets puts his shirt on. His shirt's folded neatly up. I was like, what's he grabbing? Oh, then he puts it out. He puts his shirt on. I thought it's just a rare white T-shirt. I thought it was a dress shirt he was putting on at first. And he's got the nice bomber jacket he puts on. He's gonna drive her home. It's just like he still dresses like a man's man in this movie. That's what's great about this. He could be such an idiot in the film, but the way he dresses, the way he talks, he's still Clint Eastwood. He's still got that smooth, He's got that smooth voice.
Except for in his tidy whities there towards the end.
That,
I'm like,
that was,
come on, Clint.
I was like, that's kind of weird. And that's and then you get to see how tall and langly he is. He's not like Arnold Strong Shoulders, but he's still like he's in shape.
No, he was a fit guy and he worked out a lot.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was a big thing for him. And you're absolutely right. So, it's unfortunately the movies that come after it have some extra layer on it that's not necessarily, I think, take away from the potential tear that it could have. And again, Fatal Attraction, like was mentioned in chat here, is one. The famous line from there is like, well, I'm just not going to be ignored. There's that hint of feminism in there. And other movies like Disclosure with Michael Douglas, that strong
Yes.
woman, not afraid to
Blackmail him,
express their sexuality or be involved in that too. It kind of like just doesn't work 100% because it's like, okay, whatever. And there was a bunch of early 90s kind of, when things were changing from the 80s to 90s, of stalkerish type movies. There was The Crush, there was Poison Ivy.
Crush. That's another one just like this.
Yeah, and I was thinking about all these movies, and I'm like, no, if we're going to do a stalker kind of movie, we've got to start with the one that's the best, because really everything to me still comes from this movie.
Yeah.
There's been great performances by women in movies and for different roles and stuff, but for me, in terms of obsessive behavior, this is a great one. Another one, not similar to this, but reminds me of something mental as far as trauma goes that we've talked about covering at some point, we probably will, would be gaslight. We talk about people getting gaslight. That's a phrase that's used a lot. Well, it's an old Humphrey Bogart film, and it's interesting how things have developed since then. Because Psycho, the guy Norman Bates is just a terror. You're not going to come across him. This is somebody that you can meet in today's world. You can meet them at the bagel store, the coffee shop, bookstore, the mall, or whatever, and something like that could happen. I always wondered, how could they do that today without it being too cheesy?
Yeah. Do you know what was really creepy about this is that his coworker didn't believe him at first. Something he's like, oh, Evelyn chick, I let her smother me. If Evelyn wouldn't have attacked the housemaid, the cops never would have believed him. He was thinking, it's this thing. It was just freaking dispute. It's that would have been much more creepy. But the fact that she was crazy, wasn't thinking about it, and she just, I think it was just an impulse that because it was wrong place, wrong time. But the fact that what's her name was able to survive is this by a fluke? Like, I don't think she would. I think Evelyn would have killed her if this would have been more realistic. Because it's a movie, they left her alive. You know?
And I'll say that the scene where she stabs the his lady or his landlady and maid.
Yeah.
It's we don't really. It's like Psycho where we kind of don't really see it.
No.
But just the sound at the time and the snipping sound and all that, it was kind of terrifying. I think it was a very good scene. You know, it's like, okay, this is going to happen.
The rest of the bed, she's like, she's just going back and forth with the knife. And then the cop, John Larch, good actor in this movie, gets the scissors to the chest. He's going over to check on his girlfriend's place, because he said he would. And then and this is where I wonder if this will come back, because I know it's a Psycho movie. I'm like, his girlfriend, Donna Mills' character, has his house that's left with her parents, her late father, and she needs a roommate constantly. So he made mention about it. It's always constantly people coming in, rotating roommates, because we're so far secluded away from everywhere. So I was like, really? Are we going there? We're putting on the road. I'm like, crap. And I'm like, so. And so he's like, don't worry. He calls her with the phone. He calls her, during his broadcast after the cop leaves, he tells her, Clint Eastwood's like, I said a cop over there, only let him in. He's like, don't worry, just meet Annabelle. He's like, Annabelle. And then you see it's her. It's like, Evelyn. I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's this is, I don't want to say a psychological thriller, but it's a crime thriller.
It's a psychological thriller. It's human nature. It's beautiful that way. That's the whole thing about this film is there's no, I think, surprises. You can see this coming from a mile away. And what you had said earlier about, well, if you haven't been involved in crazy, maybe these things don't strike you or you don't see what's happening as quick as possible. Like if you've just been around people or situations a long period of time. I mean, everybody's experience is different, right? Yeah. But that's the genius of this movie. There's no jump scares. There's no this. There's no that. It's not going to end well. And you get to sit there and watch it. And you get to just see it unfold. And a lot of movies can't do that. There's got to be some mystery like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Nope. From the very get-go, within 5-10 minutes, they're making love. The next day she comes over unannounced. And it's little things like that. And she does things in public. She does everything to do you now, doxing, I don't think still has the same effect as something like this. And not during like a job interview that he's doing when he's at the restaurant. Yeah. Look, again, beautiful film. I think it's tremendous. I think it's on his short list out of all his films of just a really great thing to watch. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed watching and how good I thought it was. That being said, let's talk about the ending a little bit, because the ending to me, seriously,
the ending
was a bit sudden.
I did not expect that sudden impact.
Oh God, no! Stop.
No, the ending is like he rushes over there. The cops, he sees a cop laying there on the ground. He's, dead with the scissors and all. And these are the old school scissors. These aren't these cheapy plastic ones. These are the ones they use for your hair. The sterling silver ones, the thick metal. They're like tin snips. So he's Clint Eastwood's in there, and then he's looking for his girlfriend, he finds her. She's tied up in bed, and then she's like, he flips over, and she looks like she's gagged. She's just kind of like looking behind you. Evelyn attacks him, starts slashing him with a knife, and then he Evelyn tries to flee, goes around and hides another way, slashes him again, stabs him in the leg. Finally, they get to the where we're at, like the balcony part, and then she's like attacking him when she's trying to drag him. He finally just grabs the hand because he's trying to grab the blade. You see the blood come out his hand. He grabbed it. It's like a butcher blade.
And it's your favorite 1970s bright red fake blood.
I know, right? I was like, come on, what's the blood, man? So he grabs it. And then he basically goes right in the face. She gets. I mean, you can hear it's like whack. It's like he doesn't hold back. He just punches hard as he can, and she stumbles back through the basic over the balcony, falls down the cliff. You see her bounce a couple times off the cliff, and then they cut away. And at the end of the, he goes and ties his girlfriend. He's comforting her. She's helping him. Kind of like walk out. And then you see it before the credits. You just see Evan's body just floating in the water. It's like, oh. I'm thinking like her head would not look that way.
I
She
know.
hit the cliff.
I know.
But you can tell it was a rag doll though. That's the fun part. It's just like was it Magnum Force? Where the body the guy falls off and bounces.
That's exactly right. Well, look, Clint obviously from this point on really became known not just as an actor, but as a guy that could direct and make movies on time under budget. And I'd mentioned before one of his styles was, if we get 70% of it and it's good enough, we don't need to perfect it. We can save that time. And of course, back then, film was a bit more expensive, so you had a budget for that. So hey, if we got enough where we can edit and everything, we don't need to do an extra take. So it's interesting that 50 years ago, and we're still talking about him today with what he's involved in, not even as an actor, but doing that. I think that's phenomenal because, like I said, I think it's a great film. The ending was a bit surprising. What made it good at the ending, too, is there was no big speech about, oh, I loved you. I did it. All her crazy crap was out of the door. She's just going to whack him. And they're not sitting there arguing back and forth. It's not this big thing. It's a little bit of this and that until he gets the one up on her and gives her the 1-2 punch out the window. Boom. End of movie, roll credits like you're supposed to do.
And then they played Misty.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the first time I saw this movie, I was in my late teens, I think it was. In the 80s, there was an award ceremony for Clint Eastwood on TV. I want to say CBS. I may be wrong on this, okay? And live, Roberta Flack came on to play that song. And I just remember everyone being really, really quiet and respectful of it. And they talked about this movie, Misty, and stuff. And I had known about Johnny Mathis and Misty. And my dad was like, yeah, that's, from the movie, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay. So I went to go watch afterwards and I went, holy crap, this was scary. Because again, back then, when you're a teenager, something 20 years old seems like it's ancient, right?
Right.
Now that we're talking 50 years ago. And back then I was like, well, okay, this is a pretty good movie. But watching it again today, from more of an adult perspective, God, it is so, so good. Yeah, Moranya, it does blow my mind when I say, oh, this is 50 years ago, because back in the 80s when I was watching Humphrey Bogart movies and old stuff with my dad, I'd be like, oh, this is 40 years old or 45, and it's like, really? It seemed like so long ago, but now that's, wow, even longer, but they're still
Bogart,
good films.
Bogart's in the 40s.
And 30s, yeah. I mean, and later.
So, it's like
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. If you're gonna get involved with a woman, she had to run a background check first.
I'll make her pay for it. And if she passes, she can buy you a drink.
Always have an alibi.
Never ever take them home. Always go to her place. I mean, the red pill community and the alpha male communities would be in an uproar and pissed about this film. They'd call him a beta cuck simp. And I couldn't argue it. There's a lot of lessons to learn from here. There should be required viewing of every male by the time he gets 12 and pops his first little Woody.
Every male, every female, as far as should watch this. No matter what gender it is, watch this. There are crazy people out there, and the only one to get rid of yourself is yourself. So make good decisions.
I did like how the girlfriend and the psycho never really crossed paths, except right there at the very end. They kept them separate. I liked it was him dealing with the situation he got himself in.
To me, this is no different than doing the online dating, and then you go meet a blind date, because that's what online dating to me is. You might see a picture and that's it. You don't know if it's that person or not when you finally go to meet them. So this is If you're gonna go meet somebody, make sure there's someone else with you. Maybe not watching separately, so that way something does happen. I'm just hiring Phillips as your wingman, the ladies' man.
Hey, the ladies' man. Yeah. I call this place the forum because that's where the magic happens. Yeah. Moranya, as men, we all know it's basically a one-sentence description of what women want. And, it's, 6 foot tall, 6 figures. I mean, that's about it, right? You got that. You're in the game, baby.
Do you recognize what car he was driving in the movie?
I want to say for some reason I thought it was a Jag, but I really wasn't paying attention. I thought I saw that the old Jag on the front, but I'm not sure. I have not looked that up. I'm not the car guy. You usually are, so I kind of deferred to you on that. But yeah, his his wardrobe was done by somebody there in Carmel that outfitted him on everything too. That's why it was so unique too. It wasn't a big company or anything like that. So bespoke, as it were. So that's why it works. So yeah, you got to handle the cars. I handle the fashion. Come on, man.
I know it's at least from. It looks like it's from the 40s.
Well, who knows?
But it's a nice little convertible though.
The sweet ride, yeah, sweet film.
And
All
this
right,
is
guys, gals, thank you all for showing up too. Computer robots, yeah. If computer, if you meant me just texting out early ahead of time, yeah. When we decide a film ahead of time, we usually try to do that. I do want to encourage everybody, obviously, that we're starting to try to use the community tab to get some more feedback from you guys on what types of movies to see and all that, because we have our own schedule, things that we love doing and all that too. But right now, if you check it out, there's 4 B-level Michael Douglas films on there, not necessarily the A-listers that we're going to do at some point here soon. Check that out, put a vote in. To be honest with you, I don't know how long it runs, or if you guys get how it works, if you guys get a response, but there's already a few on there.
Yeah, you want Jewel of the Nile, right?
There's Jewel of the Nile, The Ghost in the Darkness, 2 others I don't remember the top of my head.
Disclosure,
Falling Down, I think, is the 3rd one, and I forget the 4th. But they're all good films, and they're all ones that we've talked about doing here. We just now need an excuse, and we want you guys to give that to us. All right. So for RDV, everybody involved here. Remember, we got Twin Peaks dropping here with Professor Pixel, who's on severe work assignment right now. So we'll be back soon. I'll be dropping our latest one here soon. Looking forward to some of the other stuff we got going on. And next week's going to be the Thanksgiving special from Charlie Brown. We know that that's scheduled. So until then, hire Leon Phelps. Don't put it in crazy. Have a good night, everybody. And as always, stay extreme here on the WROB here in Central Florida.